when you pray, you're predicting your future. Lord, I thank you that you're going to do mighty things in my family and in my children's life and in my marriage. God, I'm predicting the future with prayer. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you shall be saved and your house. The transcript of your prayers will become the script of your future. What is amazing in the story that I read from Joshua chapter 6 is 2.5 million people walked out of Egyptian bondage into the desert. And because of their unbelief, God said, I will not let that generation go into the promised land. And for 40 years, they lived in the desert until the whole generation died. Only 2 survived that original group, Joshua and Caleb. Everyone else passed away, and this is why this is important. What that means is every person who was now 40 years old was born in the desert. They had never seen a city. They had never seen a brick. They had never seen a wall. Their style of living was the Bedouin lifestyle, which they live out in tents with sheep and goat, and they travel from desert place to desert place. You can go there to this day, and when we go to Israel, we go and show that. You can arrange spending the night there if you want to, and you're free to do that if you want to. I don't plan on ever doing that, but it's amazing that you can see that. Can you imagine 40 years of age, a whole generation, and they had never seen a city? And then the first city that they come to is the walls of Jericho, so high, 60 feet high, up to 40 feet wide. Chariots could race, and they would race chariots on the top around the walls of Jericho. People who had never seen a city, who had never seen walls, are looking at this city that they're supposed to take, and God gives their leader the strangest commandment. He says, I want you to tell them for the next 6 days, 1 time a day, to walk around those walls. And on the 7th day, walk 7 times. What were they doing? They were making prayer circles. And it didn't matter how big the walls were. And it didn't matter what they didn't have. It didn't matter the lies and the threats and the jokes and the sneering that was coming from the top of those walls. They were nobody compared to the walls that were standing there defying them. But many of you are facing walls of resistance. Many of you know that your destiny is there on the other side of that wall. And any engineer would tell you you need a battering ram, and it'll take a miracle to knock the door down, and maybe then you can take the city. But God said, no, I have a supernatural plan. And if you will surround the situation that I promised you with, that I promised to you, if you will surround it with prayer, then I will cause the walls, I don't know if you saw it, the walls will fall flat. And after the 7th time of making a circle around their purpose and their destiny, God saw it, and God said, what you circle, I circle. And what you focus on and you take serious and you pray bold about, I pray bold about. And as they marched around that city 7 times, at the end, the trumpet blast, and the people lifted their voice and shouted with a great shout, and the walls fell flat. I want today to boldly proclaim that it's time for the church, and it's time for moms and dads and grandmothers and grandfathers and parents to begin to draw a circle in your home and in your family, and put your children in that circle of prayer, and put your marriage in that circle of prayer, because there's some things that are not going to come down until somebody begins to pray bold prayers and becomes persistent and begins to draw spiritually a prayer circle and says, I will not leave this spot. I'll be back tomorrow and the next day and the next day until my son gets off drugs, my daughter gets away from that thing that she's dating. I will not. And I'm telling you, hell's afraid of the sermon I'm preaching right now. Because when a husband and a wife, when a mom and a dad draw circles and put your family in it, put your family in, God can level the walls of resistance that they may have up. When you begin to pray those kinds of targeted prayers, you don't quit, that you don't give up. Jericho was the lowest place and is the lowest place on earth. It's 600 feet below sea level. It's the lowest place on planet Earth, geographically speaking. And when you get in the lowest place of your life and you're facing walls of resistance, God says, I want you to target that. And I don't care how impossible it looks, start targeting it and circling that situation in powerful, bold prayers. Get praise and get prayer going. Now here's my point. Once you begin to draw circles in prayer that are persistent and consistent, and you just make up your mind, I'm not giving this territory up. This is not a negotiable situation here. Something's going to change inside this circle of prayer that I'm drawing. Once you draw a circle, then God draws a circle. And when God draws circles, he draws circles with angels. Because the Bible said in Psalms 32:7, you surround me with songs of deliverance. When you begin to circle that situation of trouble and problem in prayer, and you don't quit and you don't give up and you keep praying and you keep crying out, God says, put it up please. God says, I will surround you with songs of deliverance. God sends angels, and the angels surround you and start singing about the kind of deliverance that they're going to do and be released to do by God in your situation. Psalms 34:7 says, the angels of the Lord encamp round about them that fear God. So when you draw circles around your children, they may go off to college, they may go here and there, but when you draw a circle around them, God draws circles with angels, and angels go and they circle our children and they circle our family, because that's the kind of God that he is. God's already surrounding you if you will begin to pray about it. God's already got a song of deliverance around you and your children. Angels are singing about how they're going to deliver our family.